What the Health with Georges Berthonneau on FUBAR Radio.
Good morning and welcome to What the Health on FUBAR Radio with me, Georges Berthonneau. If you're a regular listener, then welcome back. And if you're new around this neck of the woods, then here's a small bit of information about myself. I'm an online health and fitness expert. I have a BSc in sports rehabilitation, and I'm a former head of medical and performance in professional football. I've been helping people feel better, move smarter, and get incredible results for over a decade. And if you are sick of dodgy influencers or people with incredible genetics giving you online health advice, you're in the right place. Because every week I cut through the confusion of the internet, we discuss relevant topics, and we help you get clarity on these topics so that you can make better decisions in your own health and fitness journey. Each week I'll be joined by expert guests as we dissect trends and bust myths. This week we are focusing on male fertility and flu vaccines. Joining me now to discuss this further is Rebecca Traylen, who is head of nutrition at Zita West products. And they develop fertility supplements and they support people navigating fertility. Rebecca, good morning. How are you?
Morning. I'm really good, thank you. And thank you for having me on this morning as well.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining us. Right. We're going to jump straight into this super interesting topic. So, what are the biggest factors that influence male fertility today?
Yeah, so I'm actually really happy as well to be talking about male fertility. I think it's a topic that isn't discussed as much as female fertility, but we know it has a really key role, and I think more males now are taking a really key interest. So when it comes to sort of the modern world that we're in now and looking at male fertility, a lot of the factors are controllable factors. So we're thinking about diet is the biggest one, lifestyle. Exercise plays a really key role. We also do have other things like when we think about environmental pollutants, also plays a role, weight. But I'd say the biggest sort of one that we can manage is diet when it comes to male fertility.
Yeah, and you know what? I have heard a lot about this, and I worked for a brand actually for the last 12 months. It's only recently just finished, and it was a testosterone clinic. And one of the biggest things they talk about is exercise and food, and kind of how people's diets and lifestyles are actually causing a big negative effect on male fertility. And like you said at the start, there's always a big push on, not push, but there's a big conversation on female fertility and what females can do. But there's a lot that blokes can do, really, really is. Like shifting your lifestyle and actually, you know, working on what you need to is important, right? This is an important topic.
Yeah, 100%. And actually working with men who are going through fertility challenges with a partner, and they've had like a sperm test and then they've taken some supplements, they've made some lifestyle changes, and the impact that it's had on their sperm results is absolutely incredible. And I think actually men are almost in some ways quite a lucky position that they can get their sperm quality tested so easily, get the result, and they have really measurable things they can do to improve it, and it's really clear that improvement. Whereas for females it can be a little bit more difficult. We can't really test directly for egg quality. So actually there is a lot that men can do, and I think there is a lot of value in understanding actually about these factors, like you're saying, about diet, about lifestyle, and how they can be impacting. And actually for men, you're producing sperm consistently and constantly, so actually it doesn't take, it's 3 months and we can see a significant improvement in those results.
And what role does nutrition play in sperm health and overall male fertility? Would you say it's like the biggest thing that someone can change and work on?
Yeah, I definitely think it's one of the first things I would be looking at. There is so much nutrition that is directly related to sperm quality. So in this seminal fluid, it's really highly concentrated in zinc. So that's why when we think of male fertility, often zinc comes to mind. Folate, otherwise known as folic acid, is often referred to as a female sort of fertility supplement because we know about the reducing the risk of neural tube defects, but actually folate's really important for DNA integrity. Well, actually, Sperm, all it is casings of DNA, and the most important role of that sperm is getting the DNA to the egg. So we want to be thinking about the DNA inside the egg. So folate's really important. Selenium is another one we hear about as well, also really important for sperm production. It's an antioxidant, really important for the quality, and omega-3s. So omega-3s are essential fatty acids.
Hmm.
They line all of the cells in the body, including the sperm cell, keeps it nice and flexible. And a component of of omega-3 called DHA is really concentrated in the sperm head, which is really important actually for the attachment of the sperm to the egg. So there are so many incredible nutrients that are playing a direct role in actually the sperm production and sperm quality. But then we know from just a general looking at the whole body point of view, we know actually having a healthy weight is going to be really important.
Yeah.
We know having a really high amount of like trans fat, processed food is going to cause inflammation in the body. This might impact hormone health, think about testosterone. So yeah, diet's really interesting because it has a very direct effect, but then also when we're thinking about the whole body effect as well.
Yeah, and it is interesting. So, like you said, basically to get stronger swimmers or sperm or whatever you want to call it, if there are any other words out there, then great. Like you said, omega-3 is super important. You said celium, correct?
Helium, yeah.
And then was it folate as well?
Yeah, folate and then zinc.
Okay, so going off what you've just said, specific foods. You obviously mentioned zinc as well. So, what is there a specific food alone, or is it just, like we said, tidying up the overall diet, improving the overall body composition, and kind of, going from there? Because you said about 3 months, you said a male can really improve his sperm count and the strength of his sperm, which is pretty great, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really great. So it's like 72 days for like a full maturation cycle. So that is why actually you just need to be looking at sort of a 3 month timeline. And yeah, in terms of food, so actually very rarely will I do this about honing in on actually a specific food group. But there's been incredible studies actually with nut consumption and sperm or swimmer quality. And there's some great studies looking at 60 grams of nuts per day. So it's a mix of like walnut, hazelnuts, and almond, had a significant impact and improvement in the overall quality. And we're thinking here about the number, we're thinking about motility, we're thinking about morphology, so the shape of them. So that I think is incredible because that is a really simple thing you can do. Just a handful of nuts each day, a really healthy snack, and that has a really significant improvement. And it's because of these nutrients like zinc and selenium, which are found in nuts and also have some healthy fats in there. So that is one where I really want people to focus on. And I always say that's the first thing I would be doing is if you can't change your whole diet, is just to include that.
So nuts to help your sorry, nuts to
No,
help your nut.
I know. I didn't go there, but I'm glad you did.
I
'Cause
couldn't
feel
stop
like
smiling. I'm
that's
sorry.
what
I'm
you're thinking.
smiling like a Cheshire cat, and I'm thinking, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. So nuts to help your nut. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
And
nice and easy to remember. So
great.
yeah.
Education is key. Anything else?
So then we are looking at actually the in terms of dietary pattern, a Mediterranean style diet, because here we're
Yes.
getting, which come back to time and time again. I'm sure people are bored of hearing of it, but it is really key. And because you're hitting those really key food groups. So I mentioned antioxidants, really important for oxidative stress in the body, which we know can directly impact sperm quality. So here we're thinking about berries, citrus fruits, dark leafy greens, things like spinach, broccoli, kale, lots of whole grains. Again, it has nuts and seeds in there as well. Some healthy fats, so you can still have meat, but we're thinking lean meats,
Hmm.
and reducing our intake of very processed meats. And oily fish as well. I mentioned at the start omega-3. Oily fish is one of the best sources. So things like salmon, anchovies, mackerel, really, really key to include as well. So I'd say, yeah, the Mediterranean style diet is the one that we constantly go back to. And we do know that it has the best overall health outcomes.
Well, it helps with female fertility as well. I remember you mentioning this before,
Yes.
for females. So overall, I mean, maybe there are stats out there. I don't know. Is Europe more populated, or does Europe have, or does the Mediterranean kind of region have a better fertility rate? I'm assuming there is, because if you're the expert and you're suggesting this, then there must be data out there to prove that they are better at maybe conceiving or
Yeah,
being
and
more
I mean,
fertile.
Yeah, it is hard with sort of studies because there's also a lot of things that affecting fertility, like
Of
social
course,
norms. But
yes.
in terms of longevity, which we know actually longevity can also be linked with a male's sperm quality. So actually, we see men with high sperm quality also have better longevity.
Hmm.
So there is loads of links, and we do know that countries who are in that Mediterranean basin do have better outcomes in terms of longevity and future health. So we know that there's some loads of links, but actually, when we look at sperm rates, we actually see a decline globally. So all
Okay.
countries are showing that sperm rates are declining.
Mm.
So whether that is due to an increase in things like processed foods becoming more normal, there's also some research actually looking at like cell phone usage, so technology and how that's impacting. We're also looking at environment as well, so environmental pollutants, plastics. So yeah, there's sort of two narratives going on, but actually we are seeing a global decline in sperm numbers.
Okay, and yeah, like you said, probably from the way of life and how things have completely changed. Now,
Yes.
exercise and stress levels,
Mhm.
these influence male fertility as well?
They do, yes. So exercise actually from both sides of it. Lack of exercise can also have a negative impact, but
Okay.
also too much exercise, because we know that high amounts of exercise can also cause inflammation in the body.
That it can?
So it's about finding that balance. And yeah, when thinking about stress, both poor sleep, all of these things as well are going to drive. Again, we're thinking about inflammation in the body. It's going to impact these things. Also, when we're thinking about stress, one thing we do come back to, there's been a massive craze with magnesium at the moment. And we
Hmm.
actually do know when the body's in a very stressed state, it's going to be using magnesium more and more likely to be depleted. And we know magnesium is needed, things like testosterone and sperm quality. So we do want to be thinking about these lifestyle factors as well.
Okay, and men, do they need fertility supplements as well, or can most support come from just diet alone and obviously exercise, but and decreasing stress, but obviously not too much and not too little?
Yes, yeah. Which I know is very hard, but not very prescriptive. It's
Well,
like Goldilocks finding that perfect balance.
but I think
Um,
everyone's different, right? I think obviously this is I see every spectrum, every part of health and fitness, you know, and I think for me, I have people that I've had clients in the past who trained 7 days a week, twice a day, and I'm
hmm,
like, wow, like you must feel awful because you're just so depleted all the time, and then all of a sudden you give them more food and you drop their load and. They're like, oh wow, I feel amazing. And it's like, oh, funny that there is
yeah,
such thing as too much. Too much of anything is bad for us. Too
yeah,
little of anything is too bad for us. So there is
no,
always a happy medium.
exactly.
So I'll let you
Yeah.
continue about supplements.
No, that is no, you're totally right. There's happy medium. So my stance on it is the first thing I want to be looking at is diet. I would say that there's no point loading your body with supplements if you're not following just sort of the basic dietary standards. And even if that all that is maybe having a handful of nuts and maybe just reducing your intake of some processed foods,
Hmm.
like some sugary drinks, just removing a few things and adding in some nuts. I would say if that is your starting point, then great. And then, like you say, adding in some exercise. And if that is just a 20-30 minute walk per day, brilliant. That is great. So I would say start there first. And for the majority of people, this might be enough. I would say, though, if you are then someone who maybe is having particularly dietary restrictions, if you're following a vegan vegetarian diet, you might need to add in some specific supplements. Or if you've been trying to conceive and it's taking maybe longer than generally it's about a year to conceive, so it does take time.
Hmm.
But maybe if you are looking at the 6 months mark and you're thinking maybe I need to add some things in, or if you've had a sperm analysis and things have come back poor, that's when I would be looking at adding in some specific supplements to help. But I would say definitely diet first is what I'd be looking at.
Okay, and quickly, whilst you've just mentioned it, sperm analysis.
Yes.
How easy is it to get seen privately? Can you go through the NHS? Like, what can listeners do if they're kind of sat there like, oh, actually, sounds like I want to try this, or I want to give this a go, or I kind of like the partner I'm with. I want to potentially start trying for a baby.
Yes, yeah.
what
So
is the
I believe
options?
with the NHS, it's only available if you've been trying for over 12 months. And that's
Okay.
the same normally with females. They're not going to investigate unless you've been trying for 12 months and you haven't had any success. However, there are plenty now of private tests that you can get. Obviously, this does cost, so that's
Yeah.
a factor to consider. However, generally, it's a relatively simple and quick process. And I think looking at whether you want to test or not, it really comes back to who you are as a person. I think some people really like the power and knowledge of having a result and they know exactly, they have really clear guidelines of what they need to do, where they need to improve. And I think for some people it can be really helpful. For some people, it can just cause a lot of panic and stress. And I think also if you haven't done any changes prior to the testing, sometimes it's not going to be very helpful because, like I was saying, actually, sperm only takes 3 months to show a significant improvement. That's the maturation cycle. So I think it's definitely they're a really useful tool, but I just think be really mindful about sort of what kind of person you are and how you will sort of how your body will or how your mind will process those results and yeah, where you are in sort of your fertility journey. But yeah, there is yeah plenty of options that you can get them privately
Yeah.
as well now.
So, long and short, if you're trying the same thing over and over again and you're not getting anywhere, you probably need to change what you're doing because a lot of people are very stubborn. Knowledge is power. I'm a big believer of knowledge is power, and without knowledge, we know nothing. So, yeah, I get that some people might get stressed from it, but the reality is you've got to make the changes or the change isn't going to happen, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for so long, something I mentioned at the beginning is fertility has always been thought of sort of a woman's
Mm.
problem.
Hmm.
Where we now know it's not. 50% of cases are due to male
I
factors.
have
So
no
I
doubt,
do
yeah.
think it is really important that actually men are also accountable for that, and they are being aware that what they're doing is really important and plays a role as well.
Yeah, well, I know of someone from back home years ago who was, trying for a baby and he stopped going to the pub and all of a sudden that kind of helped because he was drinking beer all the time. Not that that's obviously the sole reason, but alcohol's not the best for it either. I mean, you're the expert again. You might be able to kind of
No,
agree or
no, it's,
disagree, but
and I think actually a lot of the advice that we have for women, we say, quit drinking, quit
mm,
smoking, reduce your intake of caffeine. It's the same for men as well,
yeah,
but often you'll find that a woman will be making all of these changes, changing her lifestyle, her diet,
of course,
and a man will just be carrying on as normal. But we now know that that's not actually healthy or what we should be doing. And
of
actually,
course.
a lot of what is recommended for females, the male can do the same. And I do think that if your partner's also cutting out alcohol, just do it with them. I
Takes
think
two
it's
to
so
tango,
nice
right?
to have it together.
Yeah, no, it's
It's
true.
much easier.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like it takes two to tango. You need
Yeah.
you need to both work at it together. Any common myths you hear about fertility for men?
The biggest one that I hear is that age doesn't matter when it comes to male fertility. I think females, we have it drilled into us that after a certain age, our fertility falls off a cliff, and a man thinks, well, that's not a problem for me. It's never going to affect me. I will be producing sperm all the time, and I don't have sort of an age cutoff as such. It's not true. Whilst men will be producing sperm throughout their life, we actually know that as you age, the quality of that sperm does decrease.
Okay.
So that is really important when you think about because it's like I mentioned earlier, it's the quality of that DNA. That is the DNA that's passed on to your offspring. So that is probably the biggest myth that I hear that actually age isn't a factor when it comes to male fertility. It very much is.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that and I didn't realize that as well. So I thought that you could be going for years, but apparently not.
And,
So
and I know that there are some celebrity men that have been going for years,
well,
but we
strong
do know that
swimmers, lots of nuts,
lots of nuts. Yeah, they must
Mediterranean
be. They
diet.
must be. But yeah, that's probably the biggest one that I hear. And again, it doesn't mean, and this isn't again scaremongering people
Hmm.
thinking, gosh, if I'm over 40, does that not is that going to be an issue? It's not that, it's just actually being aware and saying, actually, maybe if I am slightly older, then I need to be thinking more seriously about my nutrition, my lifestyle, and supplements.
Yeah, and I agree. I actually skipped a question that I wanted to ask you because I consume a lot of these, and I shouldn't openly admit it, but I do because I've got nothing to hide. Energy drinks or high caffeine intake, is that bad for your fertility? I don't remember you mentioning something overly on that. If you have, then I apologize and I'll let you
No,
mention it
no,
again.
it's okay. So to be honest, I also would recommend cutting those out as
Yeah.
well. I did briefly mention caffeine is something that we recommend reducing for females when they're
Okay.
trying. And again, I'd actually recommend for males to reduce. Doesn't mean cutting out altogether, but reduce.
Okay.
And caffeine intake, I would just be really cautious about some of the ingredients that are used in there. So it would be something that I would also recommend reducing.
Okay. And common beliefs like tight underwear reduces fertility or hot baths are bad, are there any truth behind these as such? Or maybe you have another one that you've heard that you might want to throw into the basket or throw into the mixer?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you asked this as well because I think we're at a time at the moment where it seems like saunas are the biggest trend ever, and everyone is like, if you're not saunaing, then what are you doing? Well,
Yeah.
actually, I hate to say it, but saunas aren't great for sperm health. And it's the same theory what you were saying about the tight underwear, hot tubs. Actually, the testes don't like heat. That's why they're sort of outside of the body.
Hmm.
Um, so anything that's going to cause excessive heat is going to damage them.
Yeah.
So actually, and again, the great thing for men and male fertility is you're only looking at a 3 month period. It's not like if you've sauned for the last 6 months that all your sperm are sort of useless. It's actually, it was just a 3 months you would have to maybe, I would
Yes.
say, stop using the sauna, stop using hot tubs, be mindful, yeah, about the like underwear if it is very tight. Particularly we're thinking more so with underwear and actually exercising. So
Mm.
I know there's a lot of things sometimes about like male cyclists and wearing lycra.
Yeah.
Again, there is some truth to that, very tight, and there's a lot of heat being caused.
Yeah.
So it's just for that period of time when you're trying to either cut it out or just really reduce it. But yes, actually excessive heat can cause an issue. There's even things about having a laptop on your lap if it's causing a lot of heat, that also can
I
impact
heard
as
that.
well.
Yeah, I heard that one. I did hear when I was younger that in regards to the heat, obviously, if the testicles are too far away from the body, because obviously what they do is they go lower and lower. Obviously, they don't go down to your knees, but they try and go further away the hotter they are. Is that why they're meant to sit a little bit higher? And that's why, yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah, no,
Okay.
exactly,
Perfect.
exactly. So
Little
they
bit.
will like help, yeah, regulate.
Fine.
But yeah, it's just, yeah, trying to really avoid that excessive heat,
Mm.
is really important.
Okay. Right. We're going to have time for a few more questions, if that's okay with you. How big of a role is stress? You mentioned at the start, like we've spoken about nutrition and diet. Is stress the next one on the list? Is that solely, can that be more than just kind of like work stresses as well? Can it be life stresses, financial stresses, stress in general, lack of sleep, overthinking? What exactly could it be?
Yeah, stress is hard because it's something that we all experience. And for someone to say, oh, just stress less or worry less, it's not realistic.
That makes me stress.
Yeah, it makes you more stressed, to be honest. You're
Yeah,
completely
it
right. So,
does.
uh, but we do know that actually stress does have a really big role when it comes to fertility, and it can impact some like our hormonal axis in the body, which are producing like testosterone. We know testosterone balance is going to be really
Hmm.
important. I mentioned as well about actually how chronic stress can deplete magnesium in our body, and magnesium is really important for like our hormone regulation. It will impact in the sleep as well. So stress is definitely a factor. But again, it is about, yes, I manage stress, but it's easier said than done. So
Hmm.
it is about finding the things that you find relaxing and you can incorporate in your day that is achievable for you.
Okay. And that leads me on to my last question and also works really nicely. What are some small realistic changes men can begin making today to support their fertility? We've spoken about the start, food, kind of join in with your partner. Is there anything else or anything that you, like you said, just start with the nuts or start with something in particular?
Yeah, that would be actually going back to my nuts. That would be the biggest thing is go out, buy yourself a bag of just mixed nuts. Unfortunately, I'm going to say make sure they're not salted. Even though they are very tasty salted nuts, actually then very high sodium intake. But that is my biggest thing. Buy a bag of mixed nuts and just have a handful a day. And I think that alone can have a really positive impact.
Rebecca, amazing, super insightful. Thank you so